Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Look at this guy. We get to bring him in. I've known Ingram Smith. He's now the CEO of Battles Inn, but I knew him when none of you all knew him. He was this board op, rising star in the radio world at 980 up in Atlanta. And then now look at this guy. Everybody wants to talk to Ingram. The Battles Inn website is up, and we're going to talk to him about that, and you can find out how you can be a part of it. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. Great to talk to you, Jeff. Certainly appreciate you letting me talk to the broader JCS Warchant audience. And, yeah, we're excited. It's been 80 days since we kind of threw our hat into the field and said, give us a second. Let us, see if what we can do is something that you'd be interested in perhaps being a part of later down the road. And today's our first day to let people move on that request if they're so interested in. So NIL is an incredible space, an incredibly complicated and convoluted space at times, but it's been a lot of fun, and we're real proud of the impact that we've been able to have, and we're only looking forward to getting more people involved in it. So
yeah, I'm going to pull up in a moment here. I'll have Tom put up, let everybody see a good look at the website and navigate that with you a little bit. But I do want to ask you, it's been an incredible time, and I mean that sincerely. First of all, let's go back. It has been nearly 3 months. And I imagine in that time, Ingram, you've learned a lot. The organization's learned a lot. It's ever changing. It always feels like, I think, to the average fan and even those of us in media covering the team and all of the facets of covering a team, that it's hard to know what's coming down the pike amidst all the changes, and it's hard to know how to navigate that space, but you're in it on a daily basis, and you guys have obviously had an awful lot of success in a short period of time. I guess if you would walk me through these last 3 months and talk about how far we've come, and I guess project a little bit about how it is you see the Battles Inn role moving forward as a collective, and what we may see in that landscape, that space that is changing.
Sure. So it's fascinating. I mean, it was just kind of a loose grouping of friends who thought, yeah, we've got a couple of the ingredients here that would be necessary for us to try to walk in these waters. So why don't we give it a try? And then we kind of identified what we thought the first market inefficiency was retention. So we wanted that to be our focus coming out of the gate. And that was, really, that was kind of an easy decision, to be honest with you. I mean, when you look at what was out there and what you had a chance to bring back, didn't take a whole lot of mental power to decide that, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, Jared Verse, et cetera, those guys probably need to come back if you want to be good next year. So we thought we had a great opportunity to use retention as a tool to introduce ourselves both to the Florida State fan base and the broader college football world. And, we were thrilled. If you would have told us going into that we would have been able to get more or less everybody back but Jamie, then that would have been something that we would have immediately jumped at. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, and obviously these guys have a great love and care for each other, and there would have been a whole lot of camaraderie and desire to keep that group together as much as possible. But we certainly were able to help, and the locker room and culture that Mike Norvell has built has been critical to us, both in retention and then in every other step of the NIL landscape. As we kind of get a little bit broader with it, you don't, it's easily said, and you see in, not to take shots at Dabo, but if Dabo can parrot the talking lines, and they're getting pretty good and pretty widely adapted, but you don't want to win because of NIL, right? You want to make sure you don't lose because of NIL. So you don't want to go out and grab a kid only because, you can create more marketing opportunities for him than anybody else out there. That may not be a win that in the long term you want to have, but you want to make sure that you're not, losing out because what you're doing is seen as a detriment compared to that of what your peers can offer. So, we think we've been able to hit that space pretty quickly, and we've done some, we'll make some mistakes and we'll do a couple of things that we probably would have liked to have changed in retrospect the longer that we're in this space, but we're always going to, give it the old honest try. And we've got a ton of people that love Florida State deeply and really excited to see what the future looks like.
And that is the clearer picture, right, Ingram? Early on, you mentioned roster retention. It is an area you and I have spoken before off the air about roster retention and Florida State's emphasis, or I should say the Battle's emphasis on that. That's an area where you felt like early on you had a pretty good understanding of the space, right? That was an area that was safe. It was an area that was in need, obviously. You were right to focus on it, as you pointed out. But it's also an area where you can't get in too much trouble with some of the blurred lines and some of the ambiguity when it comes to NIL.
Yeah, the whole conversation of trouble is an interesting one in general. I mean, if if Texas A&M is going to do what they have proposed out there, then that kind of goes against some of the more prominent rules out there. And I think we're kind of quickly getting into a space to where we can look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, what, this isn't a lawless landscape, but who's enforcing it, why, and where are we going to run up against enforcement? So if you can more or less merge the NIL and an entity that has historically been looked at as, kind of part of the university athletic operating arm, then this landscape is going to look a whole lot different in 18 months or so. So I think that's the consistent here. There's always going to be change. We're just going to have to look around and be creative in making sure that we stay in the lines. But to answer your question, Jeff, and not just speak, broadly and metaphorically about the NIL landscape, we knew we had to keep Jordan. Jordan is a transcendent athlete and certainly would have probably stayed at Florida State, but Jordan was going to get an offer to, we didn't want Jordan getting to the open market. I'll put it that way. And we thought that if you could get an agreement with Jordan, that would help with each successive conversation, and that we were correct about that. And before we knew it, we were kind of got to the end of the finish line there with Jared, Fabian, and Jamie, and we're fairly confident that we were going to be able to keep at least 2 or 3 of those guys in Tallahassee, and that ultimately is how it played out.
I'll pull up the website in a second. I know you won't openly disparage other collectives around the country. And I understand why. You're a professional, Ingram. Some of those collectives have chosen to reset the market and oftentimes offered, as we now know it's documented in some cases, obscene sums of money when they're seemingly competing against themselves. It's been fascinating to watch the missteps, not saying, as you noted, that not everybody's perfect. Even you guys have some things you'd like to have done different, whatever that might be. But I guess that gets me to the question, which is, how do you figure out in the course of roster retention what the market is? How do you navigate those waters? I don't need you to get into the details necessarily. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I am curious, because it's so new, how you figure out value and what the market is for an individual on a roster.
Sure. Complicated conversation, but I think an interesting one. And the other factor that goes there is you've got to know what the market is for your coaching staff. So, let's say you can go out and say in 2 months there's a defensive end that's the number 1 kid in the country or something like that. And maybe you can go get him, but maybe you would have to pay that kid a level that you think is otherwise going to strap C4 and blow up your locker room. Is it really worth going out and getting that kid? I don't know. You've got to have that conversation internally and decide whether or not what you're doing is, are you doing it because you think it's the best for the overall program? Or are you doing it because you think you're going to get splashed on social media and it'd be cool to have a moment or something like that? So I do think that you have to kind of weave all of this together. You have to be comfortable with what your market is your market, and what your market and the way that you interpret a market value probably isn't going to be the same thing that people view in Knoxville or Athens or Tuscaloosa or whatever. So I think that you have to have your own idea as to where you can go. And ultimately, there is some wink, wink, nod, nod here or whatever, but there are marketing opportunities that have to be created. So you have to have a good understanding as to where your fan base is, where their support is, and whether or not they're, really going to be able to be in line with that of what you think you can present to a kid.
Ingram, you mentioned at the top of the interview that you wanted people to be able to kind of sit back. This was your goal. This was the way that you guys went about conducting business. Watch what we do. If you now want to be a part of what we do, here are opportunities. That's in line with, one, the reason we're having this conversation on the show, and two, obviously the release of the website. If you will, Tom, let's pull up the website and show people what the Battles In looks like, and give them opportunities to perhaps go to the website and scroll through here. As we talk about membership, Ingram, we talk about, you had a mission statement there. We talk about how it is folks can join, quote, the family of the Battles In, and what it is you guys do provide the student athletes, and what it is you guys are hoping to do moving forward. If you would speak on any of the topics there on the website, any of the various, I guess you would say, categories by which folks can get involved in the membership benefits.
Sure, absolutely. So we've got 5 different tiers that are available. There's a tier called Foot Soldier, which is $19.93 monthly, a gold level, garnet, platinum, and diamond. Gold is $100 a month, garnet's $250, platinum $500, and diamond is $1,000. You can set that up either for monthly or annual billing, and those have detailed descriptions as to what's involved, everything from a thank you note to a sideline access at a game. So there's, you can live on whatever part of the spectrum that you feel comfortable with, and that of what you want to get involved. We also, in addition to that, we'll have exclusive game day events. We'll have memorabilia and our own little marketplace for that. That's one of the kind of most natural partnerships with these kids, is a lot of signed memorabilia that we can present over the course of the year. We'll have away game experiences. That's kind of a whole different part of the fan base, or those who, this is a broad national fan base, and maybe there's a guy in Chicago who gets to come to 2 games every 3 years or something like that, and that just because he's not in in the Moore Center 6 times a year doesn't mean that fan doesn't need to be engaged with or presented opportunities. And then we've got kind of a unique engagement opportunity tab, which we have a picture from the Super Bowl there where we were able to fly Jordan and Trey out there for an event. But that's more just kind of like, hey, how creative do you want to get with this? You have an interest in going fishing with Jared Verse, or whatever it is. So the unique engagement opportunities is just kind of as big of a dream as you want to put with it, but I think the other stuff is probably a little bit more self-explanatory.
Ingram, final thing, and you didn't bring this up to me, but I know of this because I've talked to you before about it. I think one of the things that folks should know about the Battles In, I don't work for the Battles In, so know that this is just coming out because I think it's important. One of the things that I was worried about when we began to learn about NIL and collectives in general and how this was going to work was it had to be more than just about the money. The money is very important. The bottom line is you're not going to get kids if you don't have the money or you don't have those opportunities, whatever it might be. But also, I think being more involved in how that money is used and teaching the student athlete how best to utilize those the situations and opportunities. The Battles In does exactly that. I don't know how comfortable you are talking about that, but if you'd like to speak on big picture, it's not just about the money. The Battles In is seeking to be more than that, correct?
Absolutely, and I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about that. That is really, my co-founder's whole dream of this. Now, obviously, if you're going to play in the space that is the NIL landscape, you have to have significant resources behind you, and resources means that there's you're using those resources. So money is certainly a part of it, but we want money to only be a part of it. We want this to be more than a paycheck. We want to provide these kids with best-in-class financial advisors, financial literacy, budgeting. We really want this to be kind of the platform that these kids can use to jump into their professional life, whether that be as a 9-year pro in the NFL, or whether that be as a IT analyst for a consulting company in a couple of years. This is a look. You get all your you have incredible demand. So I'm not like watering those down at all, but you get so many of your kind of organic expenses paid for as a student athlete that you're able to pair with us for a couple of years. Leave college debt-free, leave college armed and equipped with life skills that maybe just the program itself wouldn't have been able to otherwise provide. And we want this to be a positive impact, obviously, on these kids for the 3 to 5 years that they're in Tallahassee, but to have meaningful impact on them for the next 40 years as they navigate life as well.
He's Ingram Smith, the CEO of The Battle's End. Go to thebattlesend.com, learn about opportunities to partner with The Battle's End if you so choose, if you like what they've done so far and where this is headed. Ingram, it's a great pleasure to talk with you, buddy. I'll talk to you again down the line. Be well, man.
Jeff, Tom, whole team at Warchant, really appreciate you having me on today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Take care. That's Ingram Smith, again, CEO of The Battle's End. Go to thebattlesend.com. We'll come back, react to that momentarily. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.